Welcome to the ABCs of preschool. My name is Miss Amber, the early childhood whisperer. Thank you for being here to this new adventure of podcasting. I guess it's not quite new as much anymore, but welcome. This week, we're going to talk about classroom management. And this topic is kind of a flowy topic because there's a lot that can encompass classroom management. And it's not easy. It's definitely a juggling act. It's a learning curve. And you need a lot of grace and patience for yourself as the educator, as well as your students. For the beginning of the year, when you have a new class, new age group, it's obviously going to be chaos. It always is at the beginning of the year. I know for myself in personal experience, it always took multiple weeks to get to know my students, get to know their skill level, get to know their likes and dislikes and their weaknesses. And so many times as an educator, we get so excited because we have all these really amazing, fun things planned and we want them to do all this great stuff. Yet, when you're teaching littles, especially like the twos or the threes, you can barely get through one project on some days, and that's okay. But the topic of classroom management, I got an email recently asking for some help with a 3-year-old class. A school has been struggling with a 3-year-old class, and it really got me to thinking about classroom management. And this was actually a podcast episode I was going to record. But a lot of our kids coming into preschools now are struggling in a sense of attention spans. And so I look at classroom management now as sometimes we have to throw the old ways out the window and come up with new ways. But there are some foundational pieces to classroom management that I think are the foundation and that should always be the foundation. And we're going to talk about that today. So, classroom management is something probably as an early childhood educator you may have struggled with, continue to struggle with. Maybe it was easier a few years ago. Maybe you're struggling with it now because, if we think about technology and our children and our students, everybody's attention span is gone out the window. We live in a world that is very fast paced and we get instant gratification so much from technology that I think it's coming into the classrooms in a sense. So, how can we successfully teach our little ones in early childhood education? And classroom management is so important for a calm, successful school year. And it has to do with us. We are the leader. You, as the educator, are the leader of your classroom. If you are stressed, if you are anxious, if you are scattered, if you are unprepared, it is going to trickle down to your students, and they are going to be stressed and anxious and unprepared for the next class that they are moving into. So you have to go into your classroom and classroom management as you are the boss. You're the leader. You're in charge of your classroom. And when you walk into those doors every morning, I think the first and main thing is a smile on your face. Love, joy, and happiness should be radiating from you to your students. For anyone to thrive in an environment, there must be love, kindness, and acceptance and encouragement. Imagine yourself in a relationship, any relationship. I don't know if you've been in a relationship. Most of us have been in a relationship in our lifetime that was toxic, whether that was a friendship or just something, was whether that was work, was not serving you well and you were stressed all the time. So you have to flip the script. You are the leader, you are the educator, you are the teacher of your little ones. So you need to show up every day with love and kindness and joy in your heart, ready to love on your little ones. If you're ready to love them, accept them, and learn and grow with them with respect, they're going to thrive in your environment. So that's step one. Every day, no matter if you're having a really hard day on the outside of your classroom, try to leave it behind, because your little ones, your students, don't deserve the hard and messy that's going on in your adult life. I remember I opened up a new school a year ago, and I showed up with all the love and joy and kindness in my heart every day, and enthusiasm every day. So that was the first step that I was doing right. But I was struggling with this new school, this new environment, with classroom management. Kids were running. Um, the the staff were just letting kids run and go wild. The staff felt overwhelmed. So if you're in a situation right now and you're saying, okay, Amber, I show up every day. I am happy, I'm joyful, and I am full of love, but I am struggling. The next part is for you. I was struggling a whole lot with the school I took over a year ago, really struggling more than I have ever struggled in my almost 30 years in this industry. I don't know if it's a shift with kids coming in, um, with well, part of it was I was taking over a very strict Montessori program. And when I say strict, I mean strict. The former person was just really, really strict. And there was so, like, all the kids were put into a very tiny box and had to be a certain way. So here I come in with, like, yay, I'm excited. And I'm like, I just love having my program set up for kids to thrive and be happy. I want them to laugh. I want them to run. I want them to have fun. I want them to be little. So it was like the polar opposite. So it took me months to get a hold of this school. And if you've got the joy in your heart, the next part is really setting up and defining a clear daily schedule. For classroom management to work, you've got to come up with a schedule and you've got to stick with it. Now, all of us educators know that not every day we're going to be on a schedule, and not every day our art projects are going to work, and our curriculum that we think we plan and that's going to be awesome, it just may be a total flop and you might have to readjust everything. So you have to have flexibility. We've got to have flexibility in our classroom management, but to the core of it, we've got to have a daily routine. Kids need routine. They need boundaries. They need to know where they're supposed to go next. That makes them feel safe. So the thing we were struggling with the new school with was the schedule. And it was a very unique situation because it was a big, giant one-room school for all different ages. And I haven't run my program like that for years. When I was in my home, it was a one-room school, but we would have different ages on different days. So this school was infants through kindergarten in one big giant building. And so that created kind of some roadblocks in our scheduling. And so we had to work it out. So we created a really good schedule. But even if you create a really good schedule, you have to have the team members actually follow through. So if you have the love and the joy and the excitement, you've got a really great schedule that you know is going well. The next is team. And do you have the team to implement your schedule, to follow through with the schedule, to create a thriving classroom environment. And that was the next thing that I was missing. I had a couple really great teachers and I had the rest that were just mediocre. They were just okay, and I questioned almost every day, "Why are you in this business?" They were not following through with the schedule or the planning of activities. You as the educator, you as a teacher have to have the follow through to have good classroom management. You have to be prepared. That's another thing I was struggling with was these teachers were coming in ill prepared. They didn't have projects prepped. I was writing the whole curriculum month out for them. I was literally like giving everything to them on a silver platter. When I take over a new school, when I come in and try to rework everything, I'm very hands-on and I want to be the leader, so they're learning from everything I'm doing, and so I was there day in and day out. I was trying to implement everything, but if you do not have a coworker or your team is not putting the work in and they're coming ill prepared, they don't have projects. If you have a chaotic classroom, if you've got kids running and screaming and they won't sit down, we have to look internally. We cannot blame our children. We cannot blame the students. So I kept having a look internally and what was the problem? The main problem I had was I had all this amazing stuff set up, systems in place. We've been doing this for years, but I did not have the teachers and the educators that were willing to follow through with amazing curriculum that was age appropriate. And when I say curriculum, I mean there should be music time, circle time, art time. They should have free play. There should be sensory bins. We have to meet all of our students just as they are, and we have to provide them with different modalities of learning because a one-way learning, a one-way in the box type of learning does not work for every child. So when you're preparing your curriculum every day in your classroom, it's up to you as the educator to be preparing age appropriate for your age group, fun, hands-on, engaging projects that there's lots of things for them to do because if kids get bored, what happens? When kids are bored, they will act out. So we have to look at ourselves as the leader, as the boss of our classroom, and how are we showing up to teach our students? And that was the biggest thing. I'll be frank that we were struggling with the new school was the staff was not the best staff. So I had to wean out the staff that weren't passionate, that weren't showing up every day with love and joy and an organized curriculum and implementing the schedule, because having a schedule every day that's consistent is so important for early learners. Providing a quality, high quality curriculum that serves all of your students just as they are, where they are, with lots of art, lots of music and movement, lots of outside time. Kids need outside time. That is so vital in classroom management. The next thing is do not sweat the small stuff. What I mean by that is do not be hypersensitive over the little things. Kids are just learning. They are going to swat at another kid. They're going to take toys. Like these are all very normal behaviors. If you're a teacher that at the end of the day goes to the parents all the time with something negative, you're sweating the small stuff. Giving grace and love and kindness to each of your students is going to allow them to trust you, to lean into you, and to be excited for what you're offering in the classroom. If you move in a way that's really controlling, mean, super bossy, super trying to control each little child and put them in a box, that is going to backfire on you. Or you're going to create a situation where they're scared of you and they're going to start obeying because they're scared, and you don't want that. You want your students to thrive. You want them to know what's coming up next so they can be prepared for that. You want to offer a lot of activities so they do not get bored and act out. We also, as educators, need to provide a lot of outside time. I think so many of our children today, our students, our early learners are so entertained by tech TV, iPads, and iPhones constantly that their attention spans are decreasing, just as our adult attention spans are decreasing. So we need to get our kids outside. We need to get them outside. Our program, the Loving Start Learning Centers, we do half our program inside and half out. They need to be running, they need to be climbing, they need to be exploring, they need to be making up imaginary games. And that is so much powerful learning. So if you're struggling with classroom management, take a look at your schedule. Realize what is working and what is not. Do I need to go outside a little bit longer? Do I need to shorten up my circle time? We can't expect like little 2-year-olds to sit in circle time for 30 minutes. Maybe in your circle time, implement more music and movement. They're standing up, they're sitting down. They get to move and they get to wiggle, and then they get to listen to a story. We have to look internally for classroom management and see what are our faults and what can I do better. Is it, how am I showing up for my students? Am I showing up with a smile on my face, with kindness and joy? How does my daily schedule and routine look? Is it set up in a way for them to be successful? Am I sticking with my schedule every day so my students are prepared? They know that when they walk in the door, there's fun learning centers for them. They get to have free play. There's art on the table. And then they know in like 40 minutes, like when you say, oh, it's cleanup time in 5 minutes, they're already prepped. They're ready. They know what's coming next because they know that after cleanup time is circle time. And then after circle time, it's snack time. So check your schedule. Look at your schedule. Is it age appropriate? Are you expecting too much from your little ones? Or, TK kids, 4-year-old kids can sit a long time for circle time, but is it engaging for them? Are you being animated during circle time? Are you reading books that are animated? Are you having music and movement? Do you have games? Are you doing the calendar? And then are they getting enough art time and projects? If you just have one ditto for the entire day, they're going to be completely bored. I always say do 2 art projects, do have table time activities where it's self-directed, have a sensory bin, like have a lot going on so they can rotate through that really successfully and they're excited about each thing that they're doing. But we've got to look internally at what we're preparing. And outside time is so important. Do not take outside time away. Really, outside time is critical for them to be running and playing and jumping and exploring. And classroom management is a lot of positive reinforcement. If you have a student that's struggling, that's not listening, I encourage you to do this. I learned this a long time ago from a psychologist. It's amazing technique. Any attention, whether negative or positive, is attention. So if you're having a child that is really struggling, every time they do something right, I don't care if they're just sitting and coloring or if they're walking to the next area nicely, go over and beyond to compliment them. I love how you're sitting. Wow, you're doing such a great job sitting. Oh my gosh, look how well you're walking to the bathroom. Wow, I'm so proud of you. Go over and beyond their positive behavior. When they do something negative, ignore it. Ignore it. Now, obviously, if they're harming a child, we cannot ignore that, right? But I would say for all of your students, go over and beyond with the positive encouragement. They're going to thrive on that. Words of praise goes so far, but words of negative are harmful. Like they really are. And even if you have a child really struggling, bend down on their level, hug them, love them, give them grace because we don't know what's going on at home. We don't know what they're struggling with. And as educators, we know if little ones are struggling with something at home, or if there's maybe a breakup in the family or a death of a pet, they're going to act out. They don't really have the words to process what's going on. So, as an educator, part of your classroom management is to love and accept each of your children. And the hard ones especially need your love. They need your hugs. They need you to get down on their level. When you're talking to them, be calm and quiet. It's just so important. Just as adults, we want to be treated with love, kindness, and respect. We need to treat our children, our students with love and kindness, but with clear boundaries and clear expectations. If their expectations are not clear of what you want out of them, then how are they going to meet your expectations? Classroom management also is having open communication with your parents. And I really, really encourage you to give way more positive than negative. Now, if you're having a reoccurring issue, that's when you talk to a family member. You talk to the parent about that in a really kind way. I always like to say it's like an Oreo sandwich. You say something positive, you say the hard, and then you bring it back with a positive. But really, communicating with your families, with the parents of your students is so important. And be the educator, be the teacher that brings the joy and the positive to the parents every day and not the little behaviors like they had a really hard time listening to me today. Every single day, you tell them that just doesn't bring joy to anybody. So, classroom management is really a look internally as the boss, as the leader of your classroom. It's also having the right team to implement your program, to implement your schedule, to implement the curriculum. If you're an educator, if you're a teacher and you're struggling with a co-teacher that is bringing negativity into a classroom and is not supporting you positively, I would actually tell you to reach out to your director, reach out to your boss, have a really open conversation. A classroom should be filled with love and joy, with a daily schedule that is implemented every day, with a full, high quality, lots of projects, lots of activities every single day, with lots of dancing, music, and movement, and lots of outside time. And I think if you start implementing those few things every single day, you're going to see a change. So, classroom management can be turned around. It's not an easy thing to turn it around if you're really struggling. I would say if you're just so struggling right now, throw everything out the window and start from scratch. Maybe what you do is your classroom time is really small and your outside time is really huge. And if you need to do a reset, I say go outside. Bring your projects outside. Bring your art time, bring your learning centers outside and do a reset. And then go backwards and start everything new. Look internally. Am I showing up every day positively for my students? Is my schedule working for my students? Are my projects working? And how I'm teaching them. Go with the positive reinforcement. I mean, over the top positive. Every time you see a student doing something right, just tell them, I love how you're playing with your friend. Oh my goodness, you just shared that toy. That is so kind. You're so kind. Our little humans need as much positivity as we can give them because as they grow older, as we all know as adults, it is so rare for us to hear the positive. People are so quick to say the negative. So, as little humans, we need to be speaking love and kindness and positivity into their life. I mean, over the top, because it's going to fill their love banks. And then they're going to want to participate. They're going to be thriving at school when we do that. So, those are my tips on classroom management. Thank you so much for joining me. Wish it, dream it, do it. I wish you have just a fantastic week. And thanks so much for listening. Visit me at thelovingstartway.com.